Hello, everybody, and here is another live webcam from the home of ChattyBloggerMS, of course, which stands for Mikey Sue's. My beautiful wife is resting. We had a great visit yesterday with our friends Adam and Lisa Explore, with each of their own channels at Hidden Jackpots for Adam and at Travel with Lisa MH for Lisa. And it was a great 2 hour discussion. We sat there around a table there at Tim Hortons, and we had a good time. And we talked about a lot of great things. So again, one more time, I want to thank Adam and Lisa for coming, meeting us, and for us to get Suzanne and I to get to know Lisa's partner Adam. And what a great guy! And we found out some wonderful, revealing details about Adam. So now we feel even more than ever that both Adam and Lisa are definitely uh, you know, well, Lisa had already become our extended family. She became a sister, and now Adam is a brother. So, yeah, I mean, we really love those two wonderful kids. Well, they're not really kids anymore. We're none of us are, but but they're a great couple. So please, if you saw my previous live webcam, I did post all three of their different uh, YouTube channels, including the one they share together. And then I also did it for Larry, my best friend, of Beersome Adventures. And we also did some other ones too. So please make sure that you do hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm not going to ring the bell because I don't do that to my wife if she's sleeping. But anyway, hit the like, hit subscribe. Don't forget to share. And remember, hit that notification bell. Hit that bell. It's a good thing. Okay, so in the discussion we had yesterday, I got this idea, and then when it was formulating in my head this morning, I couldn't really sleep. Well, no, I went to bed early, so I slept early, and well, it's 7:37 in the morning right now, Monday morning, and I was thinking of something I could talk about, covering some space of time until we get to. And remember, as I said, you never know. Remember, you never know where you'll hear or see me next. So make sure you always ring that dang bell. So, and of course, that came from brothers Matt Arnold and Jim's Landscape. Okay. So, what gave me this idea was I'm thinking of Jim, first of all. Now, Jim has said he's seen all the other new treks. That's every series that came in the last 21 years after Enterprise ended, right? Okay. So, just in a recap, unless you've been living in a cave somewhere for, 100 years or whatever, you remember we had the original Star Trek series that started in 1966, which, by the way, this year is the 60th anniversary. So that is going to be very cool. Very cool. So that means this encompasses over 60 years of Star Trek, right? And all the spin off series that followed it. Now, I know that the two Star Trek fan film series, which is the Star Trek New Voyages from James Cawley, and the Star Trek Continues, which comes from Vic Mignogna. Now, I know those fan film series are not considered canon by Paramount or anybody affiliated with them. However, that being said, I still like to include them in my list because Rod Roddenberry, which is obviously Gene Roddenberry's son, uh, you know, believed they're canon. And he thinks, no, in fact, he believes that both Cawley and Mignogna did create some great masterpiece fan film series. There were 10 episodes that Cawley did for his New Voyages, which basically to me, honestly, to me, is like their season 4 in space. Because remember, it was supposed to be a 5-year mission, right? Okay. So, and then of course, when you get to Mignogna and his Star Trek Continues, that is the 5th year in space or the 5-year mission. And believe me, it's so great because there's 11 episodes there, including a thrilling, and I mean thrilling, folks, okay, a 2-part finale, okay, which is called The Boldly Go. And when you see the end of the second one, they bring back, Kirk and Spock and McCoy, or the actors that play them, come into Now, this is after Kirk has just delivered his speech to his crew, because now the 5-year mission's over, and one of the admirals told Kirk that he could become a Starfleet operations, uh, admiral himself. So Admiral James T. Kirk. So you remember when you saw him in his different uniform at the beginning of 1979's Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Basically, what Minota did, which was so cool, is he took it from the end of his part 2, episode 11, just because these were just one season things, right? And took it from that and just went right to the next thing. So just really good, really good. Okay, so here's what we covered so far. We've covered all 79 episodes of TOS. We covered all 22 episodes of TAS, which is also continuation from season 3 of TOS and went into TAS, the animated series. And that basically was the third year in space, if you're following this chronologically. Okay. Now, my next hopeful plans, after I go through these real cursory things that I thought about just the other day, is to cover, like I said, I want to cover the fan film series first, then we'll start back with Enterprise, right? Then the 5 seasons of Enterprise. Then we'll go to the 7 seasons of Next Generation. Then Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager, right? So, and then that will cover everything there. And we'll get to that. We will eventually. What we're doing in these next, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What we're going to be doing these next 7 days from now until the 30th, and just one of these per day. So I'll cover, just cursory details. Nothing major, not going into any of them at all, majorly, just a little bit. What I plan to do is just give you basic facts of each of these new Trek series. I will go over the creators of each series, and then I will also just pick out whoever the top actor or actress was that worked in all the episodes of the series, right? And then that'll be it for that. So it's okay. So let's go over what we're going to be looking at. Crazy stuff. Okay, so first of all, there is Star Trek Discovery. And of course, everybody calls that STD, right? So, like it's a terrible disease. Well, to be honest, I got to see the first 2 episodes of the first 2 opening episodes of the first season, and then like maybe half of the 3rd episode of the first season, and then I just turned it off, and I was over with that. Short Treks. Now I do. After that was Short Treks. Now I do remember a couple of episodes I saw, and I think 1 or 2 were maybe directed by Frakes, but I'll have to look that up. But anyway, I liked those. They were pretty decent. Okay, then there was Picard, and Picard. I did manage to watch the last 3 episodes, I believe, of the last season. I think that was season 3, and but I can verify all this as I go through it each day. Which involved the Borg, which I thought was cool. And then there was like 1 episode that I think where Wesley showed up, and things like that. So that was Picard, right? And then you had Lower Decks. Lower Decks, of course, which is one animated series, which I think it did feature Kate Mulgrew, who comes to the crew or whatever thing. So there was that. There was Prodigy, which involved a few other characters from previous series. There was Strange New Worlds, which, Dimwit Cap, well, I did manage to catch a few episodes of that. I did some recaps of it. I didn't even do like all the episodes. I just went into the first 2 seasons and did a recap. There are recaps available on YouTube of any of these series. So if you get a chance, check them out if you're really interested in them and see if you want to see them or not. And then, of course, finally, on the last day, the 7th day, which is the 30th of March, for that one day, I will just give you, as I said, I'll give you my final comments on Starfleet Academy, which I really enjoyed. And I believe there will be 3 episodes that will come next year in 2027. And I'll just briefly mention through that. I already talked about the creators on that series, and I already talked about the main stars that appeared in every episode for the first 10 episodes of that. So we'll just talk about it. That's, I've already got that check mark, so it's done on that. But as I said, from now on, from now until the 30th of March, once per day, I will just go over, like I said, the creators of the series, how many episodes they had, the overall grade, and people voted, okay, on each series. And then I'll just, like I said, one or two of the main characters that were featured in every single episode of the series. So, yeah, so it's a bit of a detailed account of each of these new Trek series. They call them NU and then TREK, and really a lot of them are pretty decent, but some are just terrible, terrible. And but I never really got it. Like I said, maybe I think I saw one Lower Decks episode. I think Prodigy, probably one episode. Like I said, I saw 3 episodes and maybe one previous to that for Picard, right? Because I love the Borg and I'm, big Borg fan. I did see some of the short treks, I believe. Yes, I did. Like I said, I went over the first 2 seasons of Strange New Worlds, unfortunately or fortunately, just to understand it. And then, like I said, I did watch with our friends Jim's Landscape, and Crazy Horse, and Alice, his wife. We watched all 10 episodes of Starfleet Academy, which we thought was great. For me, it was more of a DS9, but on Earth, and it was like a 2.0. A DS9 2.0 on Earth. And I thought it was just so fantastic. I did. I really enjoyed it. I gave it an overall B. Now, remember, if you haven't seen my previous, just look through some of my latest webcams or maybe a live stream or two. Check it in the description because I try to be thorough when I go through descriptions, right? So if you read through the previous ones I've done in the last few weeks or month or so, you should be able to find all 10 episodes talked about in 3 different shows I did about Starfleet Academy. And what I give is my final grade for that first season. Yeah. So when we get to it on the 30th of March for Starfleet Academy, we'll just say what the future will hold. And yeah, and like I said, I've already talked about the creators on that and the main stars. So it'll just be a follow up to what we were hoping to see next year. Because I'm hearing they're going to do a couple more episodes to kind of put feelers out there next year, and then I'll just let you know how many episodes I see from IMDb. So this is where I'm going to get all my information from. I'm going to find out who the creators were. We'll talk about them briefly. Like I said, we'll look at the main stars and we'll see what the overall grade was given. Because for right now, all the spin-off series are done, except for 2 of them. At present, we have Star Trek Strange New Worlds is still going, and we also have Starfleet Academy, technically still going after it's done its first season. So I'm going to try, like I said, I'm going to try to be just as cursory as possible, not go into big discussions about these series because I really can't. I didn't really see them that much at all. So, I just go by what I said, and just go through each one. So, yeah. Because I know, like I said, I know about STD, I know about short treks, I know a little, like I said, a little bit about Picard. But the other ones I'm just going to kind of, leave by the wayside. The animated ones, okay, Lower Decks, Prodigy, yeah, not a big fan of each. But Strange New Worlds, yeah, I would just kind of cursory cover that on the 29th. So let me mark down these dates so I know for sure what I'm doing, and then I can cross them out as I go. Okay, so today is March 23rd. So we have 323 for STD, then 24 for short treks, 25 for Picard, 26 for Lower Decks, 27 for Prodigy, 28 for for Strange New Worlds, and finally Starfleet Academy on 29th. And then let's see here, the 30th. on the 30th, because we found out we don't get paid till the 31st. So this is why I'm doing this, so I can get some more views, more likes, and appreciate all of you doing this for us. The future, with a big question mark. We'll probably talk about the Star Trek possible legacy series, which or Legends, which will have 7 of 9 and flying the Enterprise G, that sort of thing. So, what does the future hold? That'll be on the 30th. What we'll talk about after that. Okay. And like it says, this does help our numbers as far as the number of videos we have. As I stated before about the Mikey Sue's triple playlist, which covers all 3 of our previous channels, or our 2 of our previous channels, including our current one now. So all 3 channels. And as I said, that's at Warlord Fade. That's at WARLORD, F like in Frank, E, Y like in yellow, D like in David. That's all one word. Okay, that's the first one. And then the second one is Mikey Sue's 4, right? That's at MIKEYSUZEFOUR, which is the one we lost, recently to a damn Middle Eastern terrorist, homeless man. And then our third one we're currently running is at ChattyBloggerMS, right? Which is at ChattyBlogger, and then the 2 capital letters MS, which stand for Mike Seuss, obviously. So, and like I said, once I get through these 7 one per day episodes, I should be right at 650. And that's where we're going to stop for a while. Yeah. Well, for a little bit, Micah said for about a couple, for 24 hours. Then I'll start going into the 4. As I said, we will go, we'll start on April 1st. Like I said, this goes to the 30th. We'll take a day off, the 31st, because that's our day. Suzanne and I are going to go out. We're going to have some fun. That's our one day a month. So we're going to do that. And then on April 1st, as I said, I'll come back on that Wednesday, April 1st, and we will go ahead and cover the 4 parts of one of the greatest TV miniseries ever made, which was Jesus of Nazareth, which should lead us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right up until Easter, which is April 5th. And, just going to give you brief information about each part. I'll pick out one, maybe 2 at a time. Some of the biggest stars that were on that mini series, and where they are, or if they're gone, resting in peace. And then I'll give you my overall grade at the end of it on April 4th. But I think you can all assume what it's going to be. My grade will probably be an A. But you don't know yet. Like I said, it's a mystery. So you'll find out from me and Suzanne, because we both love Jesus of Nazareth. Also, when I do start this on April 1st, folks will let you know the final results of the poll, what you all wanted. And I believe right now you all want another series down the line. So, starting into the fall time, when we get back to cooler temps again, I'll let you all folks know what I decided. And it is one of my all-time favorite series, next to which we already did A-Team, which was so much fun. But this other series, besides A-Team, was one of my all-time favorites in the 70s. And it's not Batman. I thought of Batman at first, and I said, no. Those were reruns. What I saw in the 70s on ABC was one of my all-time favorite series. It's in my top 5. It really is. I mean, A-Team's number 1, obviously. But in the 70s, this one show was right up there, just before A-Team came out. So, yeah, definitely awesome. And there were 5 seasons of it, and different incantations and things that went on. And I mean, it was great. Yeah, it was great. Okay, but anyway, we'll get to that later on. Okay, so today we're looking at, like I said, Star Trek Discovery, which is one of the least favorite series. Yeah, And and why we all call it STD, right? It's a disease. It was. However, that being said, when they had what they called the burn, right? And if you didn't watch any of STD, how would you know what the burn, what its significance was later on, which led to Star Trek Starfleet Academy later on, right? I mean, we're talking about a lot of period of time here. So, and according to what they're saying, over 700 years, since the burn or whatever, going into the 30th century or whatever the century was. So, yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, I mean, maybe some people have to rethink their thinking and go, oh, maybe we should go see STD once in a while and look at previous episodes. And, oh, maybe the recaps. Maybe we do that. I don't know. That's up to some people. I haven't decided on that yet. But anyway, and I know we don't see anybody yet, so that is totally fine. When you get a chance, if you feel like you want to do a rewatch of these, the way I'm doing it right now is I'm calling them New Treks Volume 1. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then, of course, 8 will be what does the future hold and where do we go from here? After Academy is still going, and so is Strange New World. So, yeah, where do we go? Yeah, so we'll figure that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to get through Star Trek Discovery. Now, according to information from IMDb, this was a spin-off after Enterprise ended back in 2005. Um, this was 10 years before Kirk, Spock, and the Enterprise. I'm just reading the descriptions just real quick. So, 10 years before Kirk, Spock, and the Enterprise came out in the original series, the USS Discovery discovers new worlds and life forms as one Starfleet officer learns to understand all things alien. And this overall series, like I said, it lasted 7 years from 2017 to 2024, 65 total episodes, and it finished with a C grade straight up. Yeah, over 146,000 people voted on IMDb, and it's got a straight up 7.0 out of 10. So I got a C. Now you explain that to me, because most people really hated it. And their final adventure streamed on April 4th. I have a old, or no, not an old, but a previous poster of it. Okay. And it has gone down in popularity recently. So, okay. Yeah, like I said. So I'm going to look at who the creators of the series became. And I'm going to look at this point, just the two main stars that appeared in all 65 episodes of this series. And real briefly, like I said, I'll do their mini bios, and I'll just mention whatever key facts are here. Now, first of all, this series did win 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, which is hard to believe, but it actually did. So that's the first thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll take a look. All right, so we're going to look at the creators of this entire series. This series was Quest. It was a Quest genre, sci-fi epic, sci-fi, space sci-fi, action adventure drama. That's what it was. Okay, so the creators were Brian Fuller and Alex Kurtzman. Now, before I move on, I don't give Alex Kurtzman the time of day for what he's done. So he really is not going to get any information from me to give out to you folks. I will give you out the information for Brian Fuller, the co-creator. And then we're just going to look at the two, according to IMDb, as I said, background information. We're going to look at the two actors that did appear in all 65 episodes. And that was Sonequa Martin Green, who played Michael Burnham, and then we'll look at Anthony Rapp, who played Lieutenant Commander Paul Stamets. And we'll just look at their brief mini bios for that. So that's what I'm going to do just for those two people. That's as far as I go. Okay. All right, so let's first look at Brian Fuller. Okay. All right. According to our information, Brian Fuller is still alive today. He is a writer, a producer, and he's also worked on additional crew. He was born July 27th, 1969. So as of this date today, he is he is 56 years of age. So he is still around, still working. He's been nominated for 2 Primetime Emmys in his own right. Okay. Self professed Star Trek geek who watched and loved the Trek series Deep Space Nine and set out to write for them. At the time, Star Trek had an open script submission policy, and Fuller contributed a spec, which is leading to a pitching opportunity. When he had sold a couple of stories to Deep Space Nine, Fuller was hired to be a full staff writer for sister Trek series Voyager in its 4th season. He worked on Voyager for the remainder of its 7-year run, working his way up to co producer of the series. So this is where Brian Fuller came from. Okay. And it says here that he worked on a movie in 2025, just last year, called Dust Bunny. He was a writer on that movie. Okay. He was the writer and creator for all 65 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, like I said, from 2017 to 2024. But before that, he worked on Voyager from 1997 to 2001 in 81 of their episodes as a writer. And then in 2007 to 2009, he worked on one of the cable networks series called Pushing Daisies TV series, and he was the writer and creator for that series. Worked on 22 episodes from 07 to 09. Let's see. And like I said, Dust Bunny was his last thing he worked on last year. So that's what he's done so far. All right, Brian Fuller. Okay. And let's see, has anybody entered the chat yet? No. As I figured, it's really early. I know. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a Monday morning. A lot of people are probably going to work. So, all right. So now we'll look at 2 of the actors. Well, one actress and one actor that appeared in all the episodes. The first one is Sonequa Martin Green. Okay, Sonequa Martin Green is an actress, also producer and writer. And she was born March 21st, 1985. So the woman just turned 41 years of age. Yep, she just had a birthday 2 days ago. Wow. She's an American actress and producer. She's best known for her television role as Sasha Williams on The Walking Dead, which was a role she played from 2012 to 2017. Before that, she had starred in several independent films before gaining her first recurring role as Courtney Wells on The Good Wife. Later, she had recurring roles as Tamara in Once Upon a Time and Rhonda in New Girl. And she did play the lead role as Michael Burnham in the television series Star Trek Disco. Okay. And like I said, she appeared in all 65 episodes of that. And in The Walking Dead as Sasha Williams, she was in 73 episodes from 2012 to 2022. In Space Jam, A New Legacy, she was in that movie with LeBron James, who tried to make a reboot of it that the awesome Michael Jordan did way back, and that failed. But in that movie, she played Camilla James, and that was in 2021. And then in 2024, about 2 years ago, there was a movie called My Dead Friend Zoe, and where she plays Merritt, Merit, in that in 2024. So that's some of her appearances. And she was in the TV series Boston Blue as Lena Silver for about 12 episodes, it says here, from 25 to now. Let's see. Yep, and she's still doing the Boston Blue series. So in 2026, she's going to appear in 4 episodes from season 1. Okay, so she's in Boston Blue right now. So that's what she's done post Disco. Okay, so that's Soniqua Martin Green, now 41 years of age. Yeah, nice. Yeah, still looks pretty good. Okay, and then we're looking at, like I said, the other actor we're looking at is Anthony Rapp, and he's Lieutenant Commander Paul Stamets for all the episodes. Okay. Anthony Rapp is an actor as well as producer and director. He started his career at the young age of 6, and he received his first professional job at the age of 9. His breakout came when he originated the role of Mark Cohen in Jonathan Larson's production of the Broadway musical Rent. And he can also be heard on the original cast recording. He was born October 26, 1971. So currently, he is 54 years of age. Mr. Rapp. And let's see. Right. In 2005, in the musical Rent, he's Mark Cohen. In 1993, he did work on the movie Dazed and Confused as Tony Olson. In Adventures in Babysitting, he was Daryl in 1987. And in A Beautiful Mind, which is a great movie featuring Russell Crowe, he played Bender in that in 2001. And currently, the last episode or series he's worked on after Discovery, he was in a video game as Orpheus. He did a voice in 2024 called Stray Gods Orpheus. And then a TV series as a scientist for one episode this year, season 1, episode 8, from a series called The Beauty. He is a scientist in an episode called Beautiful Brothers. And that is what he currently has worked on. So that is Mr. Anthony Rapp. Okay. All right. Now, for my brief experiences, as I'm going to mention to real quickly, they were all in season 1. So I saw episode 1, The Vulcan Hello. Then I did watch Battle at the Binary Stars, which was episode 2. And then I just walked away in the middle of Context is for Kings, which ironically they're saying was a top rated episode in those early episodes of the series. Episode 3. No, I didn't think so either. So I walked away from episode 3. So that was Sunday, September 24th, 2017, which they featured 2 episodes back to back. The first 2 episodes of the series, I remember that very well, on that Sunday night. And then Sunday night, October 1st, they showed the 3rd episode, and that was it for me. So, yeah. So that was Star Trek Disco. Okay. All right. So since I still don't see anybody, that's fine. I will be signing off here in just a few moments. But what I wanted to let you know, folks, is my personal feelings on the series. As I said, it didn't really, at first I thought it had some possibility of success. But after the first 2 episodes, I was really depressed. I didn't even know why. I watched them, but I don't know why I did, And then when I got to that 3rd episode, I said, no, this is not my grandfather's trick. It's not even my trick. It's not even my dad's trick, or his grandfather, or whatever. When, Star Trek, the original series came out in the late 60s, right? This is not that. This is supposed to be 10 years before it. And it's just like, no. And it's supposed to fill this space that was between Enterprise, right? Because Enterprise, it led up to, Archer becoming the new face of the Federation, right? But then, of course, we all know how that finale was a hologram with freaking Riker and Troy. Holy crap! From TNG? No, that to me that just showed a sign of dementia. I'm like, what? Now what are you gonna do? And I'm like, then you come up with this monstrosity called Disco. Yeah, and we got 1 like. Thank you so much. Hey, even lurkers giving us a like. That is fun. That is fun and great. Thank you so much. So anyway, not too much more to say about Disco. It was a failure to me. But then again, like I said, I didn't really watch it. So because of that, I really knew nothing until the end about the burn, right? And then, of course, I realized, wait a second, the burn is going to lead to, and eventually I found out, yeah, about 700 years in the future after the burn, or so many years after the burn, it led to Starfleet Academy. But then I liked Starfleet Academy. So that's weird. Yeah, that's weird how that turned out. So we had one person watching. Okay, so we didn't have any like. That's fine. Thank you, Lurker, for being in our chat here to watch and watch over. Okay, so I'm going to officially cross this one out so we know that we finished it. So we are done with STD. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to look at Star Trek short treks. Now, these were a series of little mini episodes. I think Jonathan Frakes might have directed a few of those. I don't know for sure. I'll have to look over them or whatever tomorrow. Um, Remember, these times are not definite, they're not predetermined, nothing is set in stone. I'm just going to, whenever I get a chance to get up and I feel all right, and because lately I've been sore, I have a lot of problems, you know, arthritically. So I'm just trying to get together, trying to maybe walk around more. Um, so, and then we're not going anywhere until next Tuesday now. So I know this. So I just said, well, what can I do to fill the time? I got it. I just go over each of the spin-off series, which has been in place, which already happened after Enterprise ended in 2005. And now after Starfleet Academy has ended its first, season run of 10 episodes for 2026. And then it's going to go into next year, according to IMDb. Or Paramount has also said something. So we'll see what goes with that. So yeah, we'll let you folks know. But anyway, so on behalf of my beautiful wife Suzanne, myself, and of course our beautiful cats Moonpie and Deja Vu, and as my wife likes to say, leave everything in God's hands. As my brother Larry of Be Yourself Adventures says, always be yourself. As that wonderful, great man, here, I'll just close that for now so I don't run out of ink. As that great man from Siskel and Ebert at the Movies, Gene Siskel himself, who said, and now the aisle's closed. Thank you to your family and everybody, Gene, and rest in peace, as well as Roger Ebert, rest in peace. And as I always like now to say, remember, you'll never know where you hear or see me next. So don't forget to ring that dang bell. And, thank you, Jim. And thank you, Matt, for helping me to put that meme together. And then, of course, last but not least, together strong all year long. That is my last meme. And that is one I like to come up with. So, yeah. And it keeps our group strong. We do have about 87 wonderful extended family members. Remember, they're not just subs to us. And we're trying to get to 100 for our first goal. And like I said, after I go through each of these, we'll be up to 650 total of our triple or of our Mikey Sue's triple playlist of all three of our channels up to that point. So that should be really fun. Yeah, we'll see what we do with that. Okay, so in the meantime, everybody take care of yourselves out there. Hopefully you'll get a chance to rewatch. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe. Don't forget to share this, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, the ding, ding, ding. Okay. Well, as I'm Mikey, remember ChattyBlogger stands for the MS stands for Mikey Sue's. So everyone take care of yourselves. Go Canada. And take care everyone. We'll see you next time on our channel. Laters. Oh, and God bless everyone.